Hello everyone, Ember here, and welcome back to a new video. In this one, I'm going to be taking a look at Supercharged Breaker in part 1. So, the first evolution line that we can take a look at here is this Executor. Now, Execute is nothing special, but there is, of course, a really good one from Paradise Dragona, so you won't have to worry about this one too much. But yeah, this Executor does look like a lot of fun, to be honest. You get to flip a coin for each energy attached to each active Pokemon, and you do 60 damage for each heads. Notice how it doesn't specify energy card, so cards like Double Colorless, for example, if they ever reprinted that, would provide 2 energy. At least I'm assuming so. So yeah, it definitely looks like to be a very fun budget slash rogue deck when paired up with the Terra Alolan Executor EX. Maybe even with the likes of Gloom potentially, like the one that accelerates energy from the top 4 cards of your deck. So yeah, definitely looks like a lot of fun. We also have this Durant EX, which can mill 1 card off the top of your opponent's deck when you bench it, and then Revenge Crash, doing 120 damage and 30 more damage for each prize card your opponent has taken. Honestly, not that impressive to me personally. I've seen some people say this is a bit mid. To be honest, I kind of agree with them. It's a bit of a shame, really, because I really like Durant as a Pokemon, and I love the fact that he's got like a bit of a rivalry, I guess, going on with Heatmore. But yeah, no Heatmore EX, sadly, which is a shame. But yeah, don't really need to print Heatmore to rival this because, this is not very impressive. So it's not the worst thing in the world. It's definitely not the worst EX by a mile, but for sure, a bit disappointed in Durant EX for sure. So yeah, bit disappointing. We also have a Scatterbug with Core for Family, which is, 40 HP, means you're not going to survive very long. Spupa, once again, doing Nout, but, it can switch itself to the bench, which is alright. We've got a Vivillon, which can evolve stuff on the bench. So if we ever see like a forest of giant plants, I guess it was, yeah, forest of giants of plants. That's not the right word. Forest of giant plants. There we go. Reprint, then maybe that could be a thing. But to be honest, I don't see them reprinting that while we have a spec, the what's it called, Great Tree A spec around. So I don't see Pavilion honestly being that good. To be honest, it's a shame, but maybe some fun decks will come out of this card. Could be a Torterra partner, I guess, maybe. But yeah, aside from that, nothing too impressive. Then we've got a Capsicid for the Scovaliant EX later on. Also got this Rabska, which does have the very fun attack Twist ending, which does 40 damage, but 240 if you happen to have 3 or fewer cards in your deck. So you've got to kind of go turbo with this guy, just play stuff like Carmine, Squawkabilly, Pokestop, that kind of thing. So yeah, honestly seems like a lot of fun. Nothing too competitive, but you can want to KO a Raging Bolt with this, KO a Chien-Pao and Rhydon, stuff like that. Want to KO a Charizard, which is quite funny. So yeah, definitely looking forward to trying out Rabaska for sure. Also got a Wu Qian, which has got a very similar effect. Like you have to have 3 or fewer cards in your deck to get the full effect of the attack. So it does 20 damage base and then 120 damage to 2 of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Honestly, not that impressive if you get to use this like mid to late game because most things are just a lot tankier by that point, and your opponent will probably see this coming a mile off and do something about it. But it's still Wu Qian. I love Wu Qian. Just honestly, I love Wu Qian so much. It's also really weird that we don't like see Chi Yu in this set for some reason. Like we've seen Wu Qian, Chien-Pao, no Chi Yu or what's the other one, Tinglu, which is a bit odd to me, to be honest. But yeah, I still love Wu Qian though, very cute. Then we have a Paldean Taurus, which we can probably skip, but 180 if your opponent's active Pokemon is a stage 1. Might be alright in GLC, but for standard, nothing really too crazy. We have Victini, which is kind of cool. I don't think it will see that much play, but it does have the ability Victor Cheer, which says your Evolution Fire Pokemon do 10 more damage, which does have some nice synergy actually with you could pair it up with Scorch to do 140, but better synergy with the Skeledirge, which does more damage for each bench Pokemon, both yours and your opponent's. So, could make sense to run a Victini in a Skeledirge deck, or maybe like an Armrouge deck potentially. But aside from that, it is just, it's plus 10 damage. It's not massive. So, and Pokego Moltres or like any of the other Pokego birds haven't really done anything. I guess, though, a plus side here is that you can use Buddy Poffin at the very least to get Victini out, but it's just like one of those cards to keep an eye on. But I think right now it's not really quite doing enough damage. Also got this Volcarona, which is sadly pretty bad. Definitely a GLC piece. We have a Scorch, which is kind of like a reprint of the Steelix, I think it was, from Paradox Rift, which is a bit weird. You know, Burning Fever doing 130 and then stuff to your benched, which is, yeah, you definitely don't want to be doing that much damage to your own bench Pokemon. But, 130 is, well, I'm saying 130 is a lot of damage, but it's not really a lot of damage in this day and age. It's still like a 3-shot against most stage 2s, so yeah, a bit of a shame, but I don't think this Scorch will be doing much. We've got the Scaladoge that was mentioned earlier. Seems quite fun, but honestly, I don't think this is going to break like the stage 2 single prize curse and be a really good deck or anything. So yeah, definitely be a lot of fun to try out with the Victini. Also, a wee bit of a shame actually that Fuecoco has 8 HP and not 70. So, this deck will just be really hard to play with Buddy Buddy Poffin. So, bit frustrating to be honest, not gonna lie. I've got a Charcadet and many Charcadets actually at this point. A new Armarouge with the attack Crimson Blaster for 2 fire and a colorless. Discard all fire energy from this Pokemon, and this attack does 180 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Kind of interesting, but it is a stage 1, so your opponent will see this coming a mile off. So it's not like it doesn't seem that good to be honest. Like you can snipe Squawkabilly, but like that's about it really for sniping. Like 180 just isn't really what it used to be in the game. Like if there was more support Pokemon that were really competitive, like a Crobat V reprint or something, then maybe this could be good. But just seems like a lot of work for a stage 1 to be honest. Then we also have the Ceruledge, which can discard all special energy, which is kind of fun, but Mist Energy would stop this. And then Flame Slash only doing 160, so definitely cool for GLC because you can now run Ceruledge and Armarouge in the same deck. But aside from that, nothing too crazy. We have a Scavillion, which is kind of funny to be honest. It can count as both a grass and fire type, so you could get to hit weakness on Charizard. Love that. But yeah, Spicy Rage doing 10 damage and then 70 more of damage for each damage counter on Scavillion. Honestly, not that impressive. You do have to survive a 1-hit KO from stuff like Raging Bolt, which might not happen very often, to be honest. But, against stuff like Dragapult, they just hit you for 200, you 1-hit KO them back. Could be quite funny. But yeah, aside from that, I honestly don't think this deck will be anything too crazy, but certainly a fun rogue deck to mess around with. Also got this Paldean Taurus with the attack Uppercut Horn, which does 30 damage, and you may put up to 2 energy cards attached to your opponent's active stage 2 Pokemon into their hand, which can be quite disruptive actually against stuff like Dragapult, funny enough, like we just mentioned Dragapult, but against Charizard, they will be able to reset the energy pretty easily. Maybe not in the late game when they have, several Charizards in play. They can't use the ability, can't just keep spamming it. But at the same time, I don't think this is doing enough. Like the damage isn't really there. Like maybe this could be okay in control, to be honest. But aside from that, I'm not really feeling it. Like a control GLC deck would be quite fun to mess around with in. But, aside from that, I don't think this Paldean Taurus will be doing much for the game. We've got a Feebas, which is the bane of my existence since that GLC video. Got my Lotic EX, which does look pretty good actually. The ability Sparkling Scales prevent all damage and effects done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Terra Pokemon's attacks. And then Hypno Slash for a Water Double Colors does 160, and your opponent's active Pokemon is now asleep. So honestly, pretty good stats overall. Definitely like the no damage from Terra Pokemon, so I could definitely imagine Milotic having a nice place in control, or maybe even slotting into an Arceus deck actually with Gastrodon. Yeah, that could be fun. So yeah, definitely have at least some faith in Milotic. Then we have a new Spheal, which is very cute, a new Celio, which is also very cute, a new Walrein, which is not so cute, but seems quite fun, Frozen Fangs doing 60, and during your opponent's next turn, the Pokemon with 2 or fewer energy cannot attack, and this includes new Pokemon that come into play, and then Megaton Full does 170 and 50 to yourself, which is beat for beat the exact same attack as an Annihilate, which is quite funny. I know that because I played Annihilate this morning, IRL, so yeah, it's a bit of a shame that they're reprinting tax already, but Frozen Fangs is honestly really cool. Could definitely see this being a very fun budget deck to try out at the very least. I also know that there's an art rare for Spheal, which is really cute, so honestly, looking forward to trying this one out, to be honest. Could be a fun deck to take to a local league challenge, but aside from that, of course, nothing too crazy. We have a Shellos, and this will be relevant later on for Gastrodon, which is really good. Has 70 HP, so, can use Buddy Buddy Poffin. We also have an Iron Bundle with Gust Collision for 2 water and a colorless. Does 200 damage and then 50 less damage for each colorless in your opponent's active retreat cost. Honestly, don't have too much faith in this. If they have a retreat cost of 2, you're only going to do 100 damage, So yeah, this honestly seems very weak, and I feel like there's better iron bundles as well to be playing in GLC. So bit of a shame for this guy, but I don't think this is very good. It's still cool though that we're getting, Paradox Pokemon in the TCG though. We also have this Chempao, which is kind of like the Pumpkaboo from Evolving Skies. You just bench it and you get to discard a stadium. Definitely a very on the nose counter to Area Zero, and I guess like the other A spec stadiums. But yeah, seems pretty decent. It's kind of bulky, so it's nice to include. Like, it's not just going to get sniped immediately by Dusknoir. Does have a retreat cost of 1, so it can also be a decent pivot. The attack is just absolute garbage, but like, you never want to attack with this. Like, you could in theory in a Chempao Excalibur deck, but yeah, definitely not attacking with this Chempao, that's for sure. But the ability is very strong, so I'll definitely keep an eye on this guy. Then we have like the main talking point of the set, I guess, which is this Pikachu EX. Very, very fragile at only 200 HP. However, it does have the ability Tenacious Heart that says when it would be KO'd by an attack, it isn't. Also, we have to be at full HP, by the way, to do this. But when it would be KO'd by an attack, its remaining HP instead becomes 10. So you effectively survive a hit and are left with 10 HP, which is honestly really, really good. And then Topaz Bolt for a Grass Lightning Metal does 300, and you have to discard 3 energy from Pikachu, but we have Magneton to pay for this. Magneton also specifies just any basic energy. It's just, only 2 metal type, not metal, sorry, lightning type Pokemon. So you will be able to accelerate the weird energy cost. But you probably just want to use like Crispin, I guess, for the first Pikachu, and then use Magneton for like the following Pikachus. But yeah, definitely seems really strong. 300 is an absurd amount of damage. Like, I wouldn't sleep on this card. I've noticed some people call this thing very mid, but to be honest, until we've seen what it can do in Japan, I would definitely, hold off from saying Pikachu EX is terrible, because very strong ability, a lot of damage, easy way to power up. Yeah, definitely keep an eye on Pikachu, that's for sure. Then we have Magneton itself, which of course could be paired up with other lightning type Pokemon. Like Zapdos EX comes to mind, just because I kind of want to find a way to make that card work. And this is honestly some of the best lightning energy acceleration we have in standard, aside from Generator. So, could make for a fun deck. You could even play Magenzone EX in this if you really wanted to. Single prize Magenzone isn't actually doing anything. Actually, Magnetic Corporation's kind of fun. Your opponent's active Pokemon is confused, and it also can't retreat while also doing 80 damage, which could be quite annoying. So yeah, I will kind of keep an eye on this attack, especially for GLC, but aside from that, nothing too impressive from Magenzone. Then we have a Rotom, which is honestly a bit scary. I'm not really seeing many people talk about this either. Crash Pulse, one that energy says Crash Pulse, and your opponent reveals their hand. Discard any item and Pokemon tool cards you find there. Discard any item. Okay, so that says any item. I thought initially it said any items. So that's very different. Although, no, this wording does mean any items, right? Right, let me just read this again. Discard any item and Pokemon tool cards you find there. Yeah, this would discard all items. For a second there, I thought it was like you discarded one item, but no, you do get to discard all the items in hand. So, yeah, honestly, quite a nasty control piece, to be honest. This could be very annoying to deal with, discarding things like rare candies. So, yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on this Rotom for sure. The attack energy short rather isn't very good, but Crash Pulse certainly very good. So keep an eye on that. Then we have Zeb Striker, which has been done very dirty this set, no flavor whatsoever. So look at him sprinting through the meadows. At least he's happy, right? But yeah, these attacks are nothing special. We have a Stunfisk, which does have a nice effect. If you get heads on the coin flip, your opponent's active Pokemon is now paralyzed and you get to discard an energy, but you're only doing 50 damage, so it's just like, why would you bother with a 50% chance not to do anything? So yeah, Stunfisk, sadly, very much a GLC card. We have a Tapu Koko, which is kind of cool. Prize counter doing 180 if you have more prize cards remaining than your opponent. So, of course, the synergy they're pushing here is Magneton. But at the same time, you could also like play this in Lost Zone, I guess, to want to kill Lugia if you went behind on prizes. So that's kind of a nice option, I guess. Could be a budget version of Raikou, I guess, for Lost Box. But aside from that, again, nothing too crazy, but still a nice option to have, especially in GLC. We have a Wattrel and Kilowattrel. Are you doing anything? 160 movable energy, you're absolutely not worth talking about. We have a Miraidon, with the attack protection code that does 40 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, prevent all damage done to your future Pokemon by attacks from your opponent's Pokemon EX. If his Pokemon leaves the active spot, however, this effect stops working. So that's kind of cool, actually. You can prevent all damage done from Pokemon EX, like Pikachu, which is really nice, Dragapult, Charizard. You could also prevent spread damage done to your benched future Pokemon, I guess, which is really nice. But at the same time, you're only poking for 40. Like, I know you can modify this with Future Capsule and Iron Crowns, but honestly, that still doesn't feel very good. Like, I love the other Miraidon because you can poke for 40 while also accelerating energy. This is 2 energy, 40 damage poke, and then some prevention. So, I mean, there could be a fun deck to be made out of this, right? But to be honest, I just don't see it being very good. Like, it just doesn't scream great. I think Mimikyu is definitely a lot better than this, but we'll see. It could be good. Maybe I'm underselling this Miraidon, but yeah, I'm not feeling it, sadly. We have a Togepi with 50 HP, so you're just going to get mauled by Dusknoir, a Togetic, and a Togekiss with the ability Wonder Kiss that says whenever your opponent's active Pokemon gets knocked out, flip a coin. If heads, take one more prize card for that knockout. This ability does not stack. So the current translation is phrasing that whenever your opponent's active Pokemon gets knocked out. So that could be to like poison, it could be to burn. Now I'm assuming when we get like the full English translation, it might just be attack damage during your turn, for example, at the end of your turn. But the way it's phrased right now kind of implies if you knock out a Pokemon with a status condition, you will be able to flip a coin and potentially take another prize card. But, just something to bear in mind, I guess, for the future. But still, a very, very funny card to mess around with and going to be very annoying to play against. So, yeah, it's kind of cool. You also have this Uxie, which can spread 2 damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon. This was honestly really good back in the Sun and Moon era when we had, Tapu Koko that did 20 damage to each of your opponent's Pokemon. But that was the Sun and Moon era when like the highest HP in the game was 240 on stage 2. So I really don't think this is doing quite enough, really. Maybe if spread gets even more buffs. I'm aware that there's a Cofagrigus, which is really, really good, but aside from that, I don't think this is doing quite enough damage. We also have a Mesprit, which can do 160 for 2 Psychic, but only if you have a Uxie and Azelf on your bench. But, you probably want to play like Xatu as well to help pay for the attack cost. And honestly, 160 isn't a lot. Like, it's still going to be a fairly solid budget deck because you can pretty much 2-shot anything with God Burst and then Mind Kinesis. But at the same time, I don't think it's going to be anything more than a budget rogue deck, sadly. It's still cool, though, that we're getting these kind of small decks to try out from every set. But yeah, aside from some, fun on the ladder, I don't think this is going to be anything special, sadly. We also have a Yamask, which is kind of cute. I love the roses. Got a Cofagrigus with the attack Underworld Law that says put 6 damage counters on each Pokemon in play that has any abilities, both yours and your opponent's. Very, very fun card, which makes me very happy because it's like this spiritual reprint of one of my favorite cards from the Sun and Moon era, which was a Weavile from Burning Shadows. Very, very cool attack. Definitely punished annoying Lost Zone decks and Snorlax decks, really, but yeah, there should be a lot of fun to mess around with. Of course, you can't really play any abilities yourself unless you're going to get really risky, which sucks because it means it doesn't have a lot of synergy with Cofagrigus EX, funnily enough, at that point. I mean, I guess you could use this attack while you have a Yamask and then evolve to Cofagrigus EX and attack with it. But then you have to wait for Cofagrigus EX to get killed before you go back to using this Cofagrigus. But either way, definitely seems like a very fun card to mess around with for sure. Definitely looking forward to this card. And we have a new Meowstic, which you can discard an item from your hand to gust one of your opponent's Pokemon. Honestly, don't think this card is very good. I've seen some people saying this could like be the next big Boss's Orders thing. If Boss's Orders does rotate, but in all honesty, it just seems like a lot of work, just to set this up. I would be more of a believer if we got like Level Ball reprinted. But as it stands right now in the TCG, I just don't see Meowstic being very good. Like, Relaxing Teaser is okay, I guess, but, like, Additional Gust, again, cool, but you have to put so many deck slots into it to get it working. So, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of Meowstic, to be honest. It would be a shame if this has to be, like, the Gust, in the future, but, yeah, we'll see, I guess. We also have this Dedenne, which can retrieve a trainer card, and not doing much else. We have a Sandygast, which is cute. A Palo Sand EX with the attack Sand Tomb. defending Pokemon can't retreat, and you do 160. Then we have Barty Jail for a water psychic fighting. Put damage counters on each of your opponent's bench Pokemon until its remaining HP is 100. So some very funny synergy there with Cofagrigus. We shrink everything down to 100. And then, Cofagrigus comes in there and cleans up. So kind of cool, to be honest. But at the same time, it's 3 different energy on a stage 1. This is very expensive to power up. So honestly, not got too much faith in Palo Sandy X being very good. But, I'm in denial about this, right? Because I love Palossand as a Pokemon. I really want Palossand to get more good cards, but yeah, this probably isn't it. You've probably got more chance of winning games with Sand Tomb than you do with this attack, but we can try and make it work. Maybe it's fun, but we'll try. We have this new Indeedee, is that how you pronounce it? Indeedee, yeah, I guess, with the ability Caretaker Heal, which says when you bench it, you may heal 30 damage and 1 status condition from your active Pokemon. So if status conditions ever get really good, then this is quite nice for decks like Terrapagos and Palkia that naturally just want to fill up the bench. But aside from that, it's the same story with Chien-Pao, right? It has to have like this niche use. And healing 30 in this day and age, honestly not that impressive, to be honest. So yeah, I don't see this card being particularly great. But again, if status conditions do become really good for whatever reason, in a future set, then, something to bear in mind. And lastly, the last card we're going to take a look at here in today's video is this Fluttermane. So this Fluttermane is honestly kind of cool because it means that if you have a Raging Bolt, right, in theory, if you have a Raging Bolt, you stick an Ancient Booster Capsule on it, so it has 300 HP at that point, then you let that Raging Bolt take a hit, then you switch into Fluttermane, and you can essentially just KO anything with Bewildering Transfer. Now, your opponent has to have done enough damage to KO themselves, which is really annoying. So, if Charizard swings for like 180, that's obviously not going to be enough. If something has to swing for 120 or something weird, like, you're just never going to be doing enough damage. But it's still funny to theorize, right? And you can still heal all damage counters from one of your ancient Pokemon. So I do think this will be fun to mess around with. It will not be competitive, but it will be funny to see like random Raging Bolt lists just throwing one of these in as a nice surprise option. Like, it could be funny. And, like, if we ever get a way to, I guess, well, actually, there is a way, because there's a new stadium that increases basic HP by plus 30. So, like, there is a way to tank a hit from Pikachu. So, you take the 300 damage that Pikachu would do, you survive the attack, you then use Bewildering Transfer to hit Pikachu for 300 damage. Pikachu then survives the attack, hits you for 300 damage, some very funny shenanigans like that. But yeah, definitely seems like a very fun card to mess around with. But yeah, do let me know what you think down below. This will be the end of part 1. And yeah, thank you for watching.